Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. So today's episode is going to be on the Crossbow Master, which is the bottom path Dart Monkey. This will also come with the Sharpshooter and the Crossbow as the tier 4 and tier 3, so let's get into it. First of all, I still have a sore throat, so you might hear that. Anyways, the Crossbow is a starter tower, so you're probably going to have this in the very early game. That's when it's useful, and then you move into the Sharpshooter, which is more useful in the early game itself. You wouldn't have it starting out, but this would be useful in the early game. And then the Crossbow Master, you'll see it be more of a mid-game carry, so you'd probably get that more in the mid-game and would allow you to save up for another more expensive tower or another tier 5 tower to go in your Chimps game. Now here are going to be the stats for all of the towers, starting off with the Crossbow. It doesn't really have a lot of damage, but it has a pretty good amount of pierce, not like crazy high, but very good stats overall for something that would start out, and it's for a reasonably cheap price too. It's especially good at taking out the camos in the starting rounds. Then the Crossbow, this one's a bit of an interesting tower because it will start to get crits, which will make it do a lot more damage, and these are generally pretty random, so it can be hard to rely on sometimes, but usually with some buffs it's good enough. And for the Crossbow Master, this is where you start to get a lot more damage and a lot more pierce, and when you get a crit on this guy, it does 80 damage, which is quite a lot, and you'll be getting a pretty good amount of crits, and when you buff it up, it's going to be even more. So yeah, that's the stats for the towers. Now let's take a look at the cross paths. So for the cross paths, you always want to go for the middle two, which is the quicker shots. So a 023, 024, or 025. This just is generally better than the pierce. It has more single target damage, and if you really need more pierce, you can very conveniently get the new Monkey. For the buffs, I always suggest going for a Berserker Brew and a primary training for the tier 4 and the tier 5. The tier 3 you aren't really going to be buffing at all. That would be a waste, but for both the tier 4 and tier 5, you want to get these two guys. It will increase the pierce, increase the damage, attack, speed, range, all that good stuff for the primary towers, and it's going to be the same for the tier 5, as you can see. Moving back to the cross paths, because you're going to be getting this guy primarily for a mid-game carry and will hold some merit more in the late game, you definitely aren't really going to need that pierce at all. And as I also mentioned before, if you really need it, you could grab a Monkey for a buff. But just looking at the damage for this quick example on round 98, the 025 is going to get a lot more pops than the 205, and the 205 does have like significantly more pierce, but you just really don't really need it too much in a practical game of Chimps. So generally just always get the 025, it's a lot better. And the other thing to note is that crossbows love straight lines, so I'll take this 025 back onto underground here, put it in the middle of the map. It covers like pretty much the entire map, but it's going to get way less pops than if I had it on the straight line example as I showed before. So sometimes the placements might look a little bit weird, but you'll get the straight lines and you'll do more damage. So let's take a look at the first example, and this is going to be on Bloonarius Prime, and I'm just going to be throwing in Churchill. Again, as it's a mid-game carry, I've talked about this before, the hero doesn't really matter. You want to use a hero that synergizes with your late game damage tower, not something for your mid game typically, because you really need your hero to bring in the power in the late game. So we're not going to be getting a hero that synergizes particularly well with Crossmaster, because your tier 5 damage tower could be a different one. But anyways, for this game, we're getting a few starting towers out, and then I'm going to be getting my Crossmaster here. No, not Crossbow Master, this is just a crossbow early on to do some good damage, and this is going to help a lot. So Quincy showed up here, and that's because I want to say that hopefully sometime soon there's going to be a buff that makes Quincy buff the crossbows, and I guess it would also buff Quincy too, because you can use Quincy's with crossbows and they'll gain power from each other. This isn't a thing of as of yet of 44.0 as I'm recording this, but it really only seems logical, and it's been suggested so many times. I don't ever remember seeing a response from one of the devs why this hasn't been added a thing, but I really do, and like so many people think this truly is like the only logical thing that can be done. Quincy and the Crossmaster could use a slight buff, so I think this would be a perfect thing to do it with, but it's not a thing, so maybe in the future it will be, but that's just something that I wanted to point out. Anyways, this Crossmaster is doing very, very well in the early game. Just grab some snipers to take some other stuff out. Bloons Prime, all the prime rounds go on the other side, so that's numbers that are only divisible by 1 in itself. So that's a few of more common earlier rounds. Only round 97 in the late game will go there, but so those rounds are a lot trickier because they kind of sneak by, so you gotta watch out for that on this map specifically. But nonetheless, with just this Crossbow doing the bulk of the damage, I was able to get an early Churchill. Now, because the Sharpshooter is good for a early game tower, we are going to be getting that, but first of all, I'm just going to get something to clean up a little bit, make sure stuff doesn't leak. So I'm going to grab a Spike Factory right here. This could be replaced with a magnitude of other towers. It doesn't have to be a Spike Factory. Just something simple and effective would work. Let's grab the Sharpshooter, and then, as I said before, the tier 4 and the tier 5 you want to buff with a Berserker Brew, so we'll get a 3-2-0 Alchemist and a primary training, at least a 300 Village. You can get a cross path, you can discount. I think here I go for the discounts just because I'm really going to have all my towers be able to hit camos, so that's not going to be an issue. Once we get the Berserker Brew, we're going to have a huge power spike. On maps that are decently length, even a bunch of advanced maps, the Sharpshooter will just shred up the Moab if you give it Alch buff, and especially if you give it primary training. So round 40 is going to be coming up right here, and just watch it. It's going to shred it. Well, took out the Moab layer there, and then sides are no problem. From there, I'm just going to upgrade my Spike Factory to a Spike Balls. The Crossmaster upgrade itself is super cheap. Typically, you want to get before round 60, especially before round 63. If you don't get it by then, you're kind of just screwed. So there's a lot of money to go around. I can get a Spike Balls. I could have even gotten a lot more like a Spike Mines, but we're good with this. And then in this example, I'm going to be getting the Crossmaster around 57, or beginning of 57. The window to get it is super free. It's a pretty cheap tower. But I noticed a lot of people have been talking how bad this tower is, and they're excited to see this episode just to see me trash talk it and see it utterly die. So let's play a quick game and see how embarrassing the Crossmaster really is. So with this setup, nothing will be changed. I will not buy anything. What round will this setup die to? It's either going to be round 63, 75, 76, or 89. So we just have the Crossmaster, Churchill, and our Spike Balls on Bloons Prime. I was going to consider buying a upgrade, but I just wanted to see how far this went, so I just went until I died. And if you said around 89, you would be right. It actually went all the way to around 89, and this is because Crossmaster really isn't that bad, and everybody's just hopping on this stupid bandwagon and saying it really is like the worst tower that ever existed. So if you're wondering, this could have comfortably gone all the way to a Superstorm and had like 8,000 cash extra. So if you wanted to use Churchill, Crossbow Master, and Superstorm as a Bloons Prime Black Border, go all for it. It will work. It really isn't that bad of a tower, especially people like say it to just be like totally garbage, won't do anything. That really isn't true. For my tier 5 damage tower, you're going to pair it with tier 5 damage, probably buy it a lot earlier than round 89. I go for a pretty odd choice. This in no way is like synergizing with the strategy. The strategy kind of ends once you get the Crossmaster. From there, you go into any damage tower of your choice. Doesn't have to be Cripple Moab. Cripple Moab is a pretty strange one. I wouldn't really recommend it. It's kind of more of a high skill tower, and I didn't do a micro, so it kind of looked like I almost died on round 98 because I never switched the Cripple Moab to first. If you're using it, you probably want to do that, or else you just get like overwhelmed with the largest rush of Moabs you've ever seen. You'll see that there. It's kind of funny, but yeah, it's still worked. Like, it's a strong tower, and Churchill and the Crossmaster were able to clean up this mega Moab rush. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Not much else. I just kind of had fun with this run in general, going all the way up to 89 with the save up, and then just having my Cripple Moab do whatever cripple Moab does in the late game. And as you've probably seen before, when it comes to like these mid-game carry towers, they do still bring a very good offering into the late game. It's not like for like a mid-game solution, like a recursive cluster or a Morglaives. They just don't really have any impact in the late game. But something like a Crossbow Master, a Comanche defense, something like that will do quite a lot of work in late game. And as you saw, there's that mega Moab rush. There's many Moabs in there, fortified Moabs in fact, but get cleaned up. I guess that's an example of how it could be useful. But I'm ending this off. Also, I didn't even like realize when I was doing this that I never even spent my money. I have like 30 something cash left over here, but it's pretty good. And if you've never seen it or ever used it, Cripple Moab's an extremely weird tower. Watch it like absolutely rip up the bad. Crossmaster doesn't really do much to bad at Churchill too, but Cripple Moab will like literally just destroy it. It's pretty funny. Really just odd, strange tower. I guess I'll have to talk about that a lot in the Cripple Moab episode, but that was the Bloonarius Prime example. Pretty simple, not too much going on. And now let's move over to a bit of a harder map, and instead of Bloonarius Prime, we're going to be playing with the Crossbow Master on Peninsula Chimps right here, and we're just going to be doing basically the same exact thing, but because this is Peninsula, I'm going to come into like a bunch of weird encounters that you'll see there, because are not using really water-based strategy, so there's not much land to go around, so we're gonna have to make some land. So here I'm gonna bring Sai. Well, I guess more for my later game strategy. As I said before, you don't really bring a hero based on Crossmaster, more what you're gonna use in late game, because it's a mid-game carry. You want your hero to be impactful in the late game, and here I'm gonna get my crossbow up a little bit later. Generally you want to get to the 003 and then buy the cross path after, but in this case I was, due to like the circumstances of me getting a hero super early, I was forced to get the 020 then 003. But normally in a regular game, get the crossbow first and then you can buy the cross path. It's going to be a lot safer and more effective. I grabbed that spike factory in the end. As I said before, other things would work, but I got that just there, and then I'm going to grab my sharpshooter. From here, typically you'd want to alch buff it, but I see that if I'm going to alch buff it, I can't place an ice to actually place other towers, so that would be no village. So I have to go all the way into my ice first, and because there's a bit of a lack of power, I just went for the spike balls first because I can't get the alch and stuff. So grab that, then we grab the ice, and I can place the village, and then I can place the alch. And I'll notice that the crossbow, well, the sharpshooter can't pop rows and balloons, so typically I wouldn't do this because you want it to actually be like cleaning up all the balloons coming out. But here I'm going to place the crossbow, no, not the crossbow, it's the sharpshooter. It is a crossbow, but not this type of crossbow. The sharpshooter on last, just so it won't like be hitting the frozen balloons all the time. And then once I get to Crossbow Master, where it can hit the frozen balloons, I'm going to switch it back over to first. So Crossbow Master came up here. Even with this ice, I was still able to get it pretty comfortably. Very cheap tower, very cool. Get it before round 60 and you're usually just fine. And now this is going to go on for a very long time. Instead of like saving way up for no reason, I'm just going to go into my regular towers because I'm going to black border this. For the late game, again, you could really do anything. I choose to do something pretty funky. I'm going to get a Lord of the Abyss. That also will help out Crossmaster with Pierce, I guess, so that's going to be pretty cool. But we're going to get Lord of the Abyss, and then I said, why not? Let's go for a super glue too. There's at least a decent amount of synergy in that. Nothing like too crazy, but it will work, so let's do it. The super glue will obviously like slow everything, and the Lord of the Abyss slow will also stack, so the balloons pretty much go like nowhere, and between the both of them they'll stop pretty much everything. And before all the towers get pierce capped, with like round 98 and 96 just completely breaking down into a billion Moabs and ceramics, Sai will be able to scream and grab everything, so our support towers, or the super glue and Lord of the Abyss slowing everything down, they'll be sure that they won't have to slow down enough. I realize I don't have camo for the DDT, so now I actually have camo and can slow things down, and then I'm going to save it for super glue, and then it will be pretty good. The only thing you have to worry about the only thing I have to worry about with this is just that like I really have nothing that stops around 100, so I'm just going to grab a first strike
and then later I'm just going to get a Spike Storm. I should have gotten that Spike Storm earlier, but the first strike wasn't enough, and I realized that a bit too late. So we're going to get the Spike Storm, first strike, blah, 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 and then just first strike the bat open, and it's pretty effective. Again, as I said before, the Crossbow Master doesn't really have anything special on round 100. It has decent capabilities against BFBs, Moabs, maybe fortified Moabs too, but for fortified BFBs and up, it becomes not so much. At least Psy will be able to take that all down. And as you can see, Bloons got nowhere. There's a Spike Storm, first strike, and that is Peninsula Chimps taken out with using the Crossmaster, incorporating it into the mid game. So that's that, and bye.
Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!